Alright, hey everybody, welcome to part 2. We just saw the queen come down to g6, and play from here continued with the rook coming over to e3, and this was actually a inaccuracy by white. Better was to just move the rook to d3 first, because now the bishop can just come up to d4, attacking the rook, and the knight cannot capture this bishop because of the mate threat on g2, and so now I just see the rook back up to d3, and so white lost the turn as a result. And with this bishop being on this square, now there are threats of maybe bishop taking this pawn check tactics. This rook is on the same file as this rook, and soon to be this rook once it moves over. And so there's just a lot of potential tactics that are going to be jumping in soon. With this bishop being here, this pawn is now pinned to the king. So now there's potential for my queen coming to this square, just getting really close to the king. And it's becoming increasingly dangerous situation for white. And so play from here continues. We see my rook come over to d8, just piling up on this rook. And now I see the king come over to f1, which breaks the pin on both of these pieces that my pieces previously had. So it's eliminating this bishop takes pawn check and the queen coming to this square as a result. So it was just a safety move to prevent some potential tactics from happening later in the game. From here, we see this move here took me quite a while. I really could not see a really great move to do. That seemed that it was going to be real productive. But what I ended up doing, this knight is no longer pinned. See if I can use another color. This knight's no longer pinned, and so this knight's free to move. This knight can just capture my bishop, and so I ended up playing pawn to e5, just putting a defender on this bishop, so that if the knight does capture, then I can just recapture with the pawn and maintain a sort of wall against white. And this is where white ends up blundering. White was concerned about this pawn still, as the knight can still move now, but there's still a threat of my queen taking this pawn with a check tempo because the bishop is still here. And now we see this pawn come up to g3, but now the pawn can just move it up to e4, and this is just a devastating move. This pawn is defended twice by the bishop and the queen, and it's forking this knight and rook, and this is actually going to cost white a piece as a result. We see from here white trying to take my queen, threatening my queen, but this fails tactically because I can still just take the rook, and now I'm attacking his queen at the same time. And I think white didn't consider that whenever they were trying to find a way out of the fork. They were kind of in the mindset, okay, if I attack his queen, he'll have to react to that, and then I can move my rook. Not realizing that once I capture the rook, I'm actually attacking white's queen as well. So white just lost a rook from here. So play continues with the rook just recapturing the pawn, and now my queen coming over to f6, getting out of the attack from the knight. And now we see f4, which is I'm not really sure. I guess trying to prevent any kind of attempt for the queen to come to the square with the bishop defending it later in the game. Now we just see the rook come over to e7, putting pressure on the queen, and white makes a second blunder at this stage. It is worth to note, this was a 45-minute game for both sides, and my opponent was down to 4 minutes, and I was down to about 8 minutes at this point. And I think my opponent started to rush a little bit, not considering the entire situation at this stage. And we see the knight come here. and now the rook can just simply capture the knight because of the support from the bishop. And once this happened, white actually resigned. So I hope you enjoyed watching this game. Leave a comment and subscribe, and thanks for watching.